Welcome in everyone to another FIFA 23 custom tactics video here for you on the channel. It is our tactics recreation series, and today I want to talk to you guys on how to replicate Arrigo Sacchi's AC Milan tactics. That really tremendous team, some will say the best of all time. I am one of those people as well, of the late 80s and early 90s. Some incredible players in this system, and today we are going to cover it. We recently covered it, recently FIFA 20, so probably 3 to 4 years ago now, and since then we haven't touched it. So we're going to get back onto it today, and I'm trying to show you the little tweaks and changes that I have made since the last one for you to replicate this system. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome along. Subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications every time I upload. Lots of fantastic content already on the channel and coming your way in the future. What we are going to do is we're going to go through the position changes, of which there are a few. We're going to talk about the custom tactics and also the player instructions as well. But before we do that, let me quickly talk to you guys about my Patreon. If you want to see how this tactic ranks and rates compared to all of the other systems that I have covered on the channel, you can get access to my FIFA 23 custom tactics package with ratings, rankings, strengths, weaknesses, suitable teams to play as for every team that we cover, as well as exclusive tactics videos that you'll only find on Patreon, like Postecoglou's Celtic, like Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen, like Will Steele's Stade Ram. We've got so many great teams on there that I think you guys will really enjoy, and a whole host of other perks and rewards on top of that. With that being said, let's talk about some of these position changes. So as you'll know, it is a 4-4-2, this ultra attacking, relentless system, so to speak, and I originally set it as the 4-4-2 holding. You can do it as the flat, it doesn't really matter. We're going to change these positions likewise. First things first, if you've set it to the holding, of which I did, you'll have one defensive midfielder, which in this case is Tonali, but then the other one you want to set to central midfield. Now in that midfield, they of course had that kind of duo of Ancelotti and Rijkaard. Ancelotti was more of that defensive minded player, whereas Rijkaard would get forward more. And what we want to replicate here is, one, as a defensive midfielder, he is that kind of ball-winning midfielder, the possessional pivot, and the one to protect against opposition counter-attacks. Whereas the central midfielder is going to get not only further forward, but his starting position is a little higher as well. Possession can go through him in a more advanced area compared to defensive midfield. On top of that, we have also changed the wide midfielders to wingers. So as you can see here, both Leao and Salamanca's in this case are at right and left winger. This was going to get them further forward, and you'll notice this more in possession. Out of possession, providing you have them on come back on defence, which we do, they will then trap back and help to form that kind of midfield four and those two banks of four. But in possession, they are going to get a little bit further forward than what wide midfielders do. Let's talk about the tactics then. Starting off with defensive style, only a press after possession loss. You would be forgiven for thinking it was a constant pressure, but actually having gone back and kind of just looked at the footage, obviously not really had many full games to go through, so do bear that in mind with all of these classic tactics as well. It's generally kind of lots of footage and highlights. With this in mind, generally what they did is they actually had quite a bit of structure to their play, and if they didn't win the ball back fairly quickly, they did then kind of resort to that two banks of four that we've already kind of spoken about. So that's something that you will want to kind of consider. We've got that on press after possession loss to employ that counter press. Width is on 20, making it very compact and narrow. Playing in part with that 4-4-2, it's going to be easier for teams to play through the middle of you, and you want to try and prevent those gaps from forming as much as possible. So in this case, we've got this on 20, and then the depth all the way up to 100, an extremely high line and an extremely high block. This is a really good way to complement that counter press, but also try and utilise the offside trap as well, which is something they did. Very much anti-Italian in that era, particularly in that era within Italy. A lot of teams were one kind of man mark, and a fair few of them were also kind of deeper kind of blocks as well. And these kind of challenged that, so to speak. Obviously, a kind of far cry different nowadays, where it is more of an attacking league. Offensively, we have slow build-up. It's actually allowing you to kind of build up through the thirds, toyed with fast build-up, but I think that you can actually get more of an upside by doing slow build-up, getting people to show for it deeper on goalkeeper restarts and coming into the box for that. And then what you can do is kind of skip players, skip the midfield, go straight into the strikers, and you'll get fast build-up that way. Chance creation is on forward runs, playing into that relentless attacking that we're talking about, an ultra kind of not only attacking system, but with a high volume of movement, and you're going to try and get that with kind of forward runs. We'll of course also play that into the player instructions as well. And then the width is on 80, making this a very stretched and very wide system as well. Something that they did like to do is kind of get lots of kind of balls out wide to the wingers and the overlapping fullbacks, and get lots of crosses into the box. And they did have a kind of target there with Hullet in that case, who was actually very good in the air. Players in the box is on 7. You're roughly going to at times have maybe 4 or 5 players in the box even, and that's what we're trying to replicate there. And then with the corners of free kicks, both of these are on 4. So let's talk about the player instructions then. Starting off with Mike Maignan in goal in this case. We've got him on comes for crosses, and then saving outside the box is balanced. Didn't really notice much of a sweeper keeper. It's not something you really saw during those times. Now, obviously, that would help a little bit more if you did have someone sweeper keeper with such a high line. But in this case, not something I've noticed. If you want to make that personal change, then of course that is down to you. With the 2 centre-backs, both of these are on normal, so you don't need to make any changes to them. And then with the fullbacks, we've got them both on the same. In this case, we do, of course, have Hernandez, Calabria. Hernandez in particular playing obviously that Maldini role. Both of these are on join the attack and overlap, and as we've spoken about, these are also going to be a big part of attacking going forward, because ultimately they're going to get very wide, and they're going to need players in those wide areas in order to provide a lot of crossing opportunities and just stretch the play as much as possible. So having both of these on join the attack and overlap is going to help you immensely. With the defensive midfielder playing the Ancelotti role, we do have Tonali. He's on cut passing lanes, very important in that 4-4-2. Most of them, other than one that we covered recently, you're going to have these guys on cut passing lanes because they're not going to be able to man up teams with kind of free midfielders as much. So it's important that they have more of a zonal approach. Again, kind of anti-Italian in that era because a lot of teams were generally man marking. These were more zonally orientated. Attacking support is stay back whilst attacking, and then defensive position is cover centre. You're not going to want either of these guys getting dragged out too wide. Instead, it's only really something that you should do manually if and when you need to. With Pabega, of course, playing that right card role in this case, his attacking support is get forward, and his support on crosses is get into the box for the cross. And as we've spoken about, he is going to be that out-and-out box-to-box central midfielder. A really good balance within this kind of 4-4-2 is having one who's that kind of defensive midfielder, preferably a deep line playmaker, but not in this case, and then the other one being that box-to-box midfielder. And you're going to get a nice kind of alternation, I guess, between those two. And in defensive position, just like the defensive midfielder, he's on cover centre. With the 2 wingers, some slightly differing role here. So let's start off with, who should we start off with? We'll go with what would have been Donadoni on the right-hand side with Salamanca's. We've got him on comeback on defence, and he's going to be tracking back. And that's going to be the same with Colombo, who would have generally been on the left side as well. And then chance creation is stay wide. He's going to really stick to the touchline as much as possible and only really invert whenever he does have the ball. And his support runs are going to be on getting behind to help him with that kind of forward runs, penetrating the back line and looking to kind of get in behind. And then his support on crosses is getting to the box for the cross. Now, it's a little bit different on the other side if I show you here. With this case, we've obviously got Rafael Leao in this case. We've still got him on comeback on defence, but this time his chance creation is cut inside. He would actually, with the likes of someone, in this case, we've obviously got Tonali there as defensive midfielder, he'd come inside and look to occasionally support the central areas more, and that's how they try and provide that balance with having a 4-4-2 but still being able to retain possession, play through the thirds, build up with kind of calculation at times. And in support runs, he's on balance, mixing up the amount of times he'll kind of look to penetrate in behind and also come short just to try and play into that. So occasionally, yes, he's going to penetrate the back line, but sometimes he's also going to drop off more and show for the ball as well. Now, with the 2 strikers, obviously, you've got that immense duo of Ruud Gullit and also Marco van Basten. We've got 2 very differing roles. First things first, let's start off with the Ketelaere in this case, who's on the right-hand side, which is very important, and I'll tell you why in a moment. He's on stay central for his support runs, and his attacking runs he's false 9. One of the strikers would often drop off. Generally, someone like Van Basten, could have been Gullit as well, but Gullit, as I say, was more of that kind of target. Van Basten did this a lot, and he will kind of drop off, and it really helps in that kind of 4-4-2 to kind of get an extra body. in the centre of midfield and help with that build-up play as well. Now, the reason why it's important that we have this guy on false 9 over on the right-hand side is because, one, you have got the box-to-box midfielder on this side. So when this box-to-box midfielder kind of overlaps, he's going to drop off, and these two are going to complement each other. In addition to that, you've also got the right winger, who's constantly going to be looking to get in behind. So you want the false 9 on his side so that he can look to try and play balls into him if and when he does get it in those advanced pockets of space. So it's important that you've got these guys really on the same side. And in his defensive support, he's also come back on defence. Now with Rebic on the other hand, a little bit different. We're still going to stay central with his support runs. It's important that both these guys are in the box as much as possible, but then his attacking runs he's getting behind, and he'll be the one who really does look to play on the last man and kind of penetrate the back line. And his defensive support is also on stay forward. So with that being said, we are just about ready to round it off there. If you've got any questions about the system, please do not hesitate to let me know, and I will do my best to get back to you. Obviously, I know you guys will keep your suggestions coming in, so you go with that. And if you want to see how this tactic ranks and rates, then make sure to check out my FIFA 23 custom tactics package, as you will find all the rankings and ratings, suitable teams for players, and a whole lot more, as well as exclusive tactics videos, Discord server access, fantasy league access, early access to videos, behind the scenes videos, so many rewards that I'm going to run out of breath. So do go and check that out. The link is down below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notifications every time I upload. And with that being said, we are just about ready to round it off there. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, I will see you soon.